Welcome to Bible Briefs. Today, we'll journey through the third book of the Bible, Leviticus. Leviticus is the third book of the Bible and part of the Torah, traditionally attributed to Moses. It serves as a guidebook for the Israelites, outlining God's laws for worship, sacrifices, and holy living. These instructions were given to the Israelites after their exodus from Egypt, as they camped at Mount Sinai. The overarching purpose of Leviticus is to establish and maintain a covenant relationship between God and His people, teaching them how to live as a holy nation set apart for His glory. Offerings and Sacrifices, chapters 1-7. Leviticus begins with detailed instructions on 5 key types of offerings, each serving a unique purpose in the Israelites' relationship with God. Burnt offering. This offering is entirely consumed on the altar, symbolizing total devotion and surrender to God. Grain offering, made of fine flour, oil, and incense, the grain offering expresses gratitude to God for His provision and blessings. Peace offering, a celebratory meal shared between the offerer, the priests, and God, signifying fellowship and communion with Him. Sin offering, designed to atone for unintentional sins, the sin offering cleanses individuals and the community from impurity. Guilt offering, focused on making restitution for sins, this offering emphasizes repentance and restoration in cases of wrongdoing. A recurring theme in these offerings is the significance of blood as a means of atonement. Leviticus 17 verse 11 declares, "For the life of a creature is in the blood," highlighting that blood symbolizes life and serves as a substitute for the sinner's life in God's holy presence. These offerings reflect God's grace in providing a way for His people to seek forgiveness and restore their relationship with Him. 2. The role of the priests, chapters 8-10. Leviticus dedicates several chapters to the consecration of Aaron and his sons as priests, marking their appointment to mediate between God and the people. Chapter 8 describes the detailed ceremony where Moses anoints Aaron and his sons with oil, clothes them in sacred garments, and offers sacrifices on their behalf. This ceremony signifies their special calling to serve as God's representatives in the tabernacle. The priestly role comes with strict guidelines to uphold holiness, as they minister before a holy God. Their duties include performing sacrifices correctly, teaching God's laws, and ensuring the people's worship aligns with divine instructions. However, chapter 10 provides a sobering reminder of the seriousness of their role. Nadab and Abihu, sons of Aaron, offered unauthorized fire before the Lord, contrary to His commands. As a result, God struck them down, demonstrating that His holiness cannot be compromised. This tragic event emphasizes the importance of obedience, reverence, and adherence to God's instructions, especially for those entrusted with spiritual leadership. The priests were called to uphold God's holiness, a reminder that approaching Him requires respect. Laws for Purity, chapters 11-15. The next section of Leviticus outlines laws for maintaining physical and ceremonial purity, emphasizing that God's people must be holy in every aspect of their lives to approach a holy God. These laws are practical yet deeply symbolic, reinforcing the need for separation from anything unclean. Number 1, Dietary Laws, chapter 11. The Israelites are given instructions to distinguish between clean and unclean animals, both for consumption and contact. Clean animals include those that chew the cud and have divided hooves, while unclean animals, such as pigs and certain sea creatures without fins and scales, are prohibited. These dietary laws teach obedience and set the Israelites apart from other nations, reminding them that even daily habits reflect their relationship with God. Number 2, Purification after Childbirth, chapter 12. Specific instructions are provided for ceremonial purification following childbirth. The duration of impurity and the sacrifices required for atonement reflect the broader theme of cleansing and the sanctity of life. Number 3, Laws concerning diseases and bodily discharges, chapters 13-15. Detailed regulations address skin diseases, such as leprosy, and other physical conditions that render a person ceremonially unclean. These laws are not only for health and hygiene but also to symbolize the need for spiritual purity. Affected individuals must be examined by priests and undergo purification rites, underscoring God's provision for restoration. Through these laws, God emphasizes the seriousness of sin and impurity, illustrating that even seemingly small defilements separate humanity from Him. These instructions remind us that approaching a holy God requires intentional preparation, cleansing, and a heart aligned with His standards. The Day of Atonement, Chapter 16. The Day of Atonement, or Yom Kippur, stands as the most significant and solemn day in the Jewish calendar. This annual event is a powerful expression of God's mercy and the provision He made for the forgiveness of sins. On this day, the high priest performs elaborate rituals to atone for the sins of the entire nation of Israel. Central to the ceremony is the high priest's entrance into the Holy of Holies, the innermost part of the tabernacle, where God's presence dwells. This was the only time in the year anyone could enter this sacred space. The high priest would sprinkle the blood of a sacrificial bull and goat on the mercy seat, symbolizing atonement for himself, his family, and the people. Another key element is the scapegoat ritual. 2 goats are chosen, one is sacrificed, and the other, the scapegoat, has the nation's sins symbolically placed upon it. The scapegoat is then sent into the wilderness, signifying the removal of sin and its consequences from the people. The Day of Atonement foreshadows the ultimate atonement provided by Jesus Christ. Hebrews 9 verses 11 to 12 declares that Jesus entered the true Holy of Holies, not with the blood of animals but with His own blood, securing eternal redemption. This chapter points to the deep truth that Christ is the fulfillment of what Yom Kippur symbolized, complete forgiveness and reconciliation with God. Holiness Code, chapters 17 to 27. The Holiness Code emphasizes how God's people are to live set-apart lives, reflecting His character. These chapters provide practical instructions for maintaining holiness in worship, relationships, and daily living. Number 1. Moral Laws, chapters 17 to 20. These chapters address the ethical and spiritual conduct of the Israelites. Idolatry, strict prohibitions against sacrificing to other gods or practicing pagan rituals, reinforcing exclusive worship of Yahweh. Sexual morality, clear boundaries on relationships and sexual practices to uphold family integrity and societal purity. Justice and compassion, commands to care for the poor, treat strangers with kindness, and maintain honesty in business dealings. These laws highlight that holiness extends beyond ritual purity to encompass how we treat others. Number 2. Priestly Code, chapters 21 to 22. Priests, as mediators between God and His people, are held to even higher standards of holiness. They must avoid anything that defiles them, such as improper conduct or contact with the dead, to reflect God's sanctity in their service. Number 3. Festivals and Sabbaths, chapter 23. God institutes annual festivals, such as Passover, the Feast of Weeks, and the Day of Atonement, as well as weekly Sabbaths. These times of rest and worship allow the community to celebrate God's provision, remember His faithfulness, and renew their commitment to Him. Number 4. Blessings and Curses, chapter 26. God outlines the consequences of obedience and disobedience. Obedience leads to blessings such as peace, prosperity, and God's abiding presence. In contrast, disobedience brings curses, including famine, disease, and exile. This chapter underscores the covenant relationship. God's faithfulness is constant, but His blessings are tied to the people's response. Number 5. Vows and Offerings, chapter 27. The final chapter provides guidelines for making and fulfilling vows to God. These laws emphasize sincerity and responsibility in commitments made to the Lord. Leviticus teaches us that God is holy and desires His people to reflect His character. The meticulous details of sacrifices, purity laws, and holy living remind us that approaching a holy God is not casual but requires reverence, obedience, and dedication. These principles resonate even today, as Christ's sacrifice fulfills the atonement system, granting us direct access to God. In our everyday lives, Leviticus challenges us to live intentionally holy lives, setting ourselves apart in our actions, relationships, and worship. Whether through showing kindness, maintaining integrity, or prioritizing God's presence, we reflect His holiness to the world. This book may seem ancient, but its call to holiness is timeless, reminding us that we are called to be a light in a world that needs God's love and truth. We have reached the end of the video. Thank you for joining me on this journey. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more summaries of the Bible. See you next time as we explore more of the Bible.